speaker at many national and international seminars and conferences. He has written 67 articles in international journals and 97 articles in national level journals. Near about 20 e-content development created by him, and more than 100 newspaper articles are written by him. He is an author of more than 20 books and edited 12 books also. Countries like Malaysia and Japan are visited by him for research purpose. Two major research projects which are funded by UGC and ICSSR are on his name. One of these two projects is environmental damage caused in urban area of Maharashtra, and second is social sector development of inclusive growth of Maharashtra. He has held dignified positions in many important committees of the university, as well as many national and international level institutions. It is an honor and privilege for us to have such noble personality with us today. On behalf of our college, I once again welcome him and hand over the charge of this session to him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. At the very outset, I am very much thankful to organizers, principal of the college, coordinators, and all other members of the management and authorities for inviting me to deliver a lecture on the occasion of this conference, national conference that has been organized on the very important topic, burning topic, I would say, that is climate change. And in the last 2-3 years, we are very much experiencing how the climate change is working, what's its practice, and how the society is being suffering from. In addition to that, it is not only the society, but the society of the living things also is being suffering. And more importantly, how the economy is being adversely affected so far as the phenomenon of climate change is concerned. And it is again this backdrop, I must congratulate organizers. I'm also thankful to organizers for giving me an opportunity to deliver lecture on this occasion. So far as my lecture is concerned, it will be basically divided into, in just brief, already keynote speaker Karve Madam has touched upon the conceptual explanation of what climate change is. But as a background preparation, just I will touch upon what climate change is and what is the magnitude or extent of climate change that India has that has been experienced in India. For me, what is important is analyzing impact of climate change on Indian economy. And already that is categorized into three categories. Number one is how it is affecting ecology of India. Number two is very important, how it is affecting society, of the India, and how it is adversely affecting economy of the India. These are the three aspects and dimensions in which I want to focus on how this climate change as a global problem. It's a global problem. It is not only restricted to India or any particular country that is there in the globe as a whole, but it is related to all the countries in the globe. But we are sticking up to our country and our economy, so far as my lecture presentation is concerned. In addition to that, I will also place before you in what direction the efforts are being made by the government policies and policy makers so as to deal with the problem of climate change. And lastly, I will try to place before you what should be the direction of the policies that will enable us in mitigating the problem of climate change and its evil consequences on the one hand. But at the same time, it will also rehabilitate society, rehabilitate living things, and prominently, it will also help us in revival of the economy, especially from the adverse impact of the climate change that is taking place. So far, this is my plan or outline of my lecture. Again, I'm thankful to organizers and chairman for this session. Let me permit to share my presentation. Yes, it is there. Yes, it is there. Yeah. No, it is not. Is slide is visible?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Slide is
Yes, sir.
visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, excuse me.
Yes.
The screen, your screen is visible, no, but not your slides.
Slide is not visible.
Yeah, there is some browser. Google browser is visible.
Yes, a minute. Now is it okay?
No, I think, sir, you have selected the browser option while sharing. So I will just stop your sharing and you please share it again.
Okay. Yes, fine. Is it okay now?
Yes, right.
Is slide visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. As I have mentioned, the topic of my today's lecture is socio-economic and ecological impact of climate change on India. So far as my plan is concerned, first of all, I will just try to touch upon what climate change is and how it is related to global warming, what connection is there between climate change and global warming. And at this moment, what is the magnitude of climate change and consequently global warming as well, with reference to the country like us. And then the crux of my lecture is how it is affecting society, economy, and ecology. How it is affecting. And as I already have mentioned that, what mitigation policies the government policymakers they have introduced and they have been implementing so far as mitigating climate change and its civil consequences. And lastly, what should be direction of the policies which are required? What changes and revisions which are required so far as controlling evil consequences of climate change on the society, ecology, and economy as well. Now, all of us know climate change is the result of global warming. It is the effect of global warming. And for the first time, the global warming was identified into 20th century. And it is 70 Arinhus for the first time estimating what can be effects of global warming. What can be effects of global warming. And he found that there is a rise in temperature in an unequal way. There is not equality. There was disparity so far as rise in temperature is concerned. And it is therefore what global warming was taking place. How it is to be identified? It is to be identified with the help of indicators, or we can make indicators, use of indicators, rise in air and ocean temperature, rise in global sea level water, and loss of snow and ice cover also. And how this global warming takes place, that is shown here. These are the short wave rays from sun. Out of that, 30% are returned back by the earth and 70% are absorbed. And out of this 70%, again, 30% are returned back into the atmosphere in the form of long wave. Previously, those were in short wave. And those are converted into long wave and 30% are again returned back into the atmosphere. And these long wave, those are trapped by the greenhouse gases. And that results in warming of the globe, warming of the earth. That is what we call it as a global warming. And this shows how the rise in temperature that has changed the scenario of planet Earth, how that has happened. And these are the greenhouse gases which are responsible so far as global warming is concerned. And this global water vapor is there, carbon dioxide is there, methane is there, nitrous oxide is there. These are the prominent gases which are contributing so far as the problem of global warming is concerned. And I have mentioned global warming is average rise in temperature. When the rise in temperature, average temperature rises, it is called as global warming. But climate change is average weather conditions. Average weather conditions. And when change in weather conditions take place, it is called as climate change. The term is known as climate change. Thus, climate refers to weather for a longer period. For a longer period. And when fluctuations, ups and downs, those are found, observed, that phenomenon, that problem, that challenge is known as, it is called as global climate change. And the effect of greenhouse gases, that is carbon dioxide, water vapor, ozone, methane, nitrous oxide, black soot, and halocarbons, on the rising temperature of the globe, it is called as greenhouse gases. And the effect is known as global warming. Now, for us, what is important is climate change. Now, so far as the present scenario of climate change is concerned, in 2007, global average temperature has increased by 0.76 degrees Celsius. That is 1.4 Fahrenheit. And during 1850 to 1899, increase that was unprecedented in the last 1,000 years. That increase was higher, greater for last 1,000 years. And especially that warming was in some places, not at all places. And Arctic temperature increased by double, twice. And linear warming rate in the last 50 years by double has been observed. Now for India, Government of India initial national communication has given some data. And according to this report, warming trend has been observed along the west coast, central India, interior peninsula, and northeastern India. But on the contrary, cooling trend is observed in northwest and parts of South India. Monsoon rainfall at all level doesn't show any significant rate. Fluctuations are there. But those are, when an average is taken into account, according to this report, it is insignificant. But regional monsoon variations are very significant. Regional variations in the rainfall, monsoon rainfall, are very significant. And there are some areas in which a significant increase in monsoon rainfall was observed, especially Andhra Pradesh, northwestern India, by 10 to 12%. But at the same time, a decreasing trend in monsoon rainfall was observed in Madhya Pradesh, northeastern India, and some parts of Gujarat and Kerala. And that was by -6%. Now, what the present position is, so far as climate change is concerned. Now, mean annual temperature has increased in some areas, and some areas show a fall. And precipitation, rainfall, has also changed very significantly. The warming of 0.5 degrees Celsius over India will be by 2030. And the warming of 2 to 4 degrees Celsius by the end of this century will be maximum in India. Increased warming it is resulting in tropospheric ozone pollution and air pollution, especially in majority of cities. And some models have suggested that Indian summer monsoon will intensify when the climate change intensifies. And the timing will shift. Melting of glaciers will take place. And on an average, melting of glaciers will take place at 10 to 15 meters per year. And flooding will take place, especially in river valleys, which are basically fed by the Himalayan ranges, Himalayan mountains. In some areas, that will result in floods. In some areas, there will be acute shortage or scarcity of water. Now, sea temperature is rising. Rise in temperature, that is, sea temperature is taking place. Indian Ocean has warmed since 1955 by 0.5 degree centigrade to 20 degree south latitude belt. And Southern Ocean in the Atlantic and Indian Pacific sectors has been warmed up. The regions that exhibit cooling are mainly shallow equatorial areas. And the Indian Ocean, cooling is occurring in South and Pacific centered equator. Tropical and Eastern tropical Indian Ocean is warming. Surface warming trend has increased and 0.2 degrees Celsius increase has been observed. Upper ocean warming in the South Indian Ocean that has taken place. And rainfall is changing. Characteristics of or character of rainfall is changing. And it is found that a decrease in rainfall during 1900 to 2005 at 7.5% has been taken place. In northwestern India, 1901 to 2005, rainfall has increased by 20%. Then dryland areas have been doubled, not only India, across the globe as well. And warming tendency is found even in winter also. Now this is winter, but warming is there. Today also you can experience. Now, one model forecasting, what will be scenario of climate change by 2050? And according to this model, overall decrease in the number of days will take place. Extreme rainfalls will be observed. Atlantic and Pacific oceans will be strongly affected. Natural variability is found. And Indian oceans will show a continuously warming trend. Then IPCC, International Committee on Climate Change, has given some of the statistical information about the climate change, especially northern parts of Bay of Bengal. Then those will be experienced, and western central India will show a maximum overall increase in rainfall. Extreme temperature and rainfall will be experienced, and greenhouse warming will be dominated in larger and longer time. And these emissions, greenhouse gases emissions, will increase. And prominently, that will significantly influence climate change. Some future forecasting also is available about the temperature and precipitation rainfall. And according to this, there will be general warming and enhanced rainfall over India, with becoming particularly significant by 2040. Average temperature increase over long period of India by 2030. That will be there. Then India cloud face a temperature increase, and consequently seasonal rainfall patterns will change. Indian monsoons will intensify with the warming, and stronger and winter monsoon will be weaker. That is observed. Prominently, South Asia, monsoon depressions and tropical cyclones will be generated, and East Asia, the monsoon circulations are strengthened, and extratropical cyclones will be energized. Now, according to IPCC, 0.3 to 0.8 meter rise in level of seawater will be there, and the largest will be for Western Pacific and Eastern Indian Oceans. Kutch, that is in Gujarat and West Bengal, their level of seawater will increase very significantly. And by 35 millimeter, that is average 0.22 to 0.47 millimeter rise in sea level, that will be experienced. Now, in many regions, water scarcity will be there, and agriculture, that will be affected. Glaciers will show significant melting, and the rate of glacier melt can result in flooding and downing of the cities on the banks of the oceans, seas. River flows will decrease to the previous rates, and there will be, in some areas, water will be there, but in majority of number of areas, drinking water will not be there, and water for agriculture crops, that will not be there. Now, when this is how the trend is there, when it is taken into account, then it is of importance to know how it is affecting on the society, on the economy, and also on the ecology, ecosystems. So first of all, the impact of climate change on society, that is social impact of climate change. Now this climate change will affect energy system in India. Per capita demand for energy will increase. All of us know when there is warming, more use of energy is observed. And there will be a rapid increase in demand for energy at the rate of 3.2%. And according to International Energy Agency, by 2030, there will be double increase in demand for energy. Double increase in demand for energy. And when demand for energy will increase, our composition of energy is dominated by thermal energy, about 60%. And in remaining 40%, all others are there. Hydro is there, atomic is there, geothermal is there. That is dominant component of energy is thermal energy, about 60%. And when there will be increase in demand for energy, energy production, that is thermal energy, will increase. And the discharge of carbon dioxide, that will increase. In addition to that, it is therefore, India is the third largest carbon dioxide emitter. And there is domination of thermal energy. So far as the total energy production and consumption is concerned. And with the increasing demand, it is because of the climate change. The domination or dominant share of thermal energy, that will be intensified. And further that will contribute to climate change, global warming, and consequently evil effects. Now, one of the major problems relating to energy and its impact on the society is we have a significant inequality in the availability and use of energy. And the data tells us that inequality is significant. And according to International Energy Agency, 412 million people are not having access to energy. As a result, their demand, their demand is concerned. And for sustainable development, we have to give food security. And for food security, again, there is a need for controlling emissions. And 412 million people have no access to energy. And they are prominently using fuel wood and dung for cooking and heating. As a result, 4 lakh premature deaths are taking place. 4 lakh premature deaths are taking place. Now, all of us know income disparities is one of the major problems. Even recently only, World Inequality Report has been published in 2022. And again, how the inequalities, economic, both income and wealth, that is increasing. And because of increasing inequalities, further that affects access to energy and consequently evil effects. Now, all of us know our energy is dominated by thermal energy. And here it is found that 83% of the energy is produced from coal and remaining in less than 5%. Hydropower and nuclear power is there. Our transport sector, Transport plays a very important role in growth and development of the economy. And this transport sector is exclusively dependent upon imported oil. And imported oil is one of the sources of discharging of greenhouse gases that is there. Then anthropogenic climate change is being observed and quality of the air is being worsened. Then the use of biomass for energy, that is fuel wood, dung, agriculture waste. That percentage in rural areas is significantly higher. And in urban areas, it will decrease significantly. But in rural areas, it is not. Exclusive dependence on this biomass energy sources there in the rural India. And that can further intensify the discharge of the greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide like that. And further that will intensify evil consequences on the society. Then this climate change is going to affect food availability. But as per the Sustainable Development Goal, we should have 100% food security. And climate change is affecting water availability and productivity of agriculture. The extent or magnitude in which irrigation facilities are required, those have not been availed. And consequently, inadequate irrigation facilities is affecting agriculture production and productivity as well. And further that will be intensified because of the climate change, because of the melting of the ice and flooding and acute shortage of water in some of the areas. Then it is found that there will be, when rainfall period changes, there will be need for earlier sowing or agriculture cultivation. And this will lead to loss of agriculture crops, agriculture products, loss of agriculture crop. Now, the availability of the water, only 34% water is available for use. And again, there is wide differences in the availability and use of water for agriculture and allied activities. And because of melting of glaciers, Himalayan glaciers, further uncertainty will be increased and flooding will affect agriculture and allied activities. Then there will be water scarcity and especially water availability even for drinking purposes. That will be a problem. And how to avail and access drinking water, that will be a problem before the society. Now it is found that 15% aquifers, water bodies, are in critical condition. And it will be intensified by 2030 to 60%. And as a result, availability of water, especially for drinking and for necessary activities, will not be available. And it is found that the level of groundwater has been deepened. In Punjab, 94% water, the level of water table has increased. In Haryana, it is near to that. In Tamil Nadu, 60%. In Rajasthan, 51%. And it is becoming difficult to avail water even through borewell also. And that poses a problem of availability or access to drinking water also. Then it is because of that non-availability of water, possibility of suicides is predicted. And the level of groundwater is depleting very rapidly and significantly. In addition to that, on the one hand, over-exploitation of water is taking place. But at the same time, in some of the areas in which access to the water is significantly higher and greater, there we see the problems like salinity, waterlogging, and desertification as well. And those affect fertility and productivity of soil or agriculture land. In addition to that, the genetic diversity is being adversely affected. All of us know, at this moment, population of India is about 140 crores. And to provide for food security, scientists are talking about, researchers are talking about second green revolution. And for second green revolution, access to water, irrigation water is required. But how to give access, how to avail the water for the green revolution, second green revolution, that is a problem. Only 35% water land has access to irrigation facilities. And 65% land or cropped area is rain-fed agriculture. And because of climate change, the availability of water for irrigation facilities will be decreased, and the contrary, land under rain-fed agriculture, that will increase. And that will affect food security, production of food grains. Then prominently, Indo-Gangetic plain, that is the fertile agriculture and fertile land. And that is being adversely affected by this climate change. Western region, Punjab, eastern region of Bangladesh and India, Pakistan and India, and rising population also have impact on the availability and access to agriculture production. Now, farming system is affecting, and area under irrigation or non-irrigated area is increasing. And therefore, farmers' income is decreasing, loss to the farm income is taking place. And it is found that to the increase in 3.5 degrees Celsius temperature, loss to the revenue or income of the farmers, that will be between 9 to 25%. Already Indian farmer is in economic losses, and therefore suicides has become a common phenomena for the farmers. Further, that will be intensified. And one of the responsible causes will be climate change. It will be climate change. Now, it is found that when rising temperature between 2.5 degrees Celsius to 4.9 degrees Celsius, it will very adversely affect agriculture and allied activities, and consequently, economy. One study was carried out by Kumar and Parikh, and that study talks about how the income of the farmers or agriculture will affect, how the livestock population will be affected. And according to this study, the farm income or revenue will fall by 9%. And the total income of the farmers, that will be a fall of 25%. And livestock population, that will be decreased very significantly, because the conducive environment for their survival and sustenance will not be there. Then heat events, diseases, outbreak of diseases, that is also going to affect because of temperature, humidity, rainfall, and prominently that will affect cattle population, and that is being already experienced in Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh. Because of climate change, this livestock population is being adversely affected, and the experiences are there in Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh. The fresh water availability will be affected, and consequently fish production, fish population, that will be adversely affected. Its production will decrease. Now, health will be affected. There will be poor health outcomes, and outbreak of communicable diseases will be more, like TB, like malaria. And because of urbanization, which is unplanned, the outbreak of the disease like dengue will be more. And further, the diseases like malaria, that will be outbreak, and that has very widespread effects. Now, already all of us know, it is not India, but the neighboring countries also will be affected by this climate change. Bangladesh, Pakistan, all others are there. Now, talking about economic impact of climate change. Now, first of all, agriculture yield will be decreased. Productivity of labor and supply also, that will be affected. And energy can affect production. If agriculture electricity also requires, that supply will be distributed. And trade will be affected, international trade. And as a result, overall economy of India will be adversely affected so far as its impact is concerned. Now, temperature and rainfall, when uncertainties and inadequacy also will be there, as a result, that will further intensify adverse impact on agriculture and allied activities. Now, one of these studies tells us 3.8% to 5.7% fall in production will be exclusively because of climate change. And that study has been carried out by Oppermer. Crop cycles have been changed because of climate change, especially India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. And we are experiencing the incidents like extreme heats. And because of extreme heat, worker productivity is being adversely affected. Worker is not in a position to work, even in agriculture or maybe in industry sector or service sector. When heat is excessive, extreme heat will be there. He cannot work. And his productivity, efficiency is going to affect, it is affecting. Now, in addition to that, the extent of fall in productivity is significantly greater because of heat. Because in the situation of heat, worker cannot work, human resource cannot work. And such incidents will be higher, will be more because of the climate change. Now, climate change also has an impact on falling industrial and agriculture yields. And some estimates have been undertaken. And according to those estimates, because of climate change, falling industrial production and agriculture yields, that will take place. And the study has been carried out by Jones and Olkin. And more importantly, the recent study by China, that tells us a significant decline in national income of India is possible, probable. It is because of climate change. And further it will be intensified. Now, one study was carried out by Dell and others. And that study tells us that when there will be increase in temperature, there will be fall in per capita income of India by 8.5% to per degree Celsius increase in temperature, to 1 degree Celsius increase in temperature. Fall in national per capita national income. It is not national income, per capita national income. That is 8.5%. And consequently, as a result of that, the magnitude and extent of economic growth that will be narrowed down, that will be reduced, because that will directly impact economic growth, that is GDP. Then one of the estimates tells us that 1% degree Celsius rise in temperature that reduces growth of economy by 1.3 point per annum. The GDP will decrease by 1.3% per annum when 1 degree Celsius rise in temperature takes place. Now, for rich countries and poor countries also, that problem will be there. But the level of income of developed countries is significantly greater. And comparatively, population is meager or low. So those will not be much affected. But the developing countries like us, that will be very badly affected. Now, absolute level output will be decreased. And one of the studies that tells us that will further intensify inequalities in the country like us. Poor survival of the poor strata of the society, that will be a problem. That will be difficult. And further inequalities will intensify. Recently, that report tells us, previously it was 1% household were possessing 73% share of income and wealth. It has been further intensified. Concentration has taken place as per the recent report of 2022. It will be further intensified as an impact of climate change in the country like us. Then, in long run, India's growth can be negative. Negative growth rate is possible. It is because of climate change. It is not because of corona pandemic. Already we have experienced how the pandemic like corona affect on the growth. But instead of such pandemics, climate change can be a determinant of, can be influencer of negative growth of India. And prominently, agriculture will be hit hard because all of us know agriculture is prominent, dominant in India. Today also more than 60% population stays in rural areas and depends upon agriculture as a source of livelihood. And there will be non-linear, that is non-continuous, incontinuous. That is lot of variations. Lot of variations in growth will be observed because of climate change. Continuous growth will not be possible. And that will happen. It is because of climate change. And when growth affects, definitely the well-being of the people is affected. Standard of living of the people is affected. And that will be possible, that will be experienced in the country like us. In addition to that, the neighboring countries like Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, those also will be affected. And as a result, this climate change will affect consumption. Consumption will be affected. And there will be it will be difficult to get access to the necessary goods and services for fulfilling wants of the people. That will be there. In one of the studies, it is observed that 40% poor people, their income will decrease by 75%. Of the 40% people, income will decrease by 75%. And the loss to the output because of climate change, that will be in trillions of US dollars. In trillions of US dollars. Now, according to one study, when there will be 0.01 degrees Celsius annual increase in temperature, its impact on growth will be 0.05%. That is 5 times more. 5 times more. And 100 million people will be, in coming 10 years, will be affected by their contributions to the growth. They are not in a position to contribute to the growth. And as a result, a significant decline in the standard of living of the people in India will be there, in addition to other countries also. But the negative impact on the well-being standard of living of the people will be about 7%. About 7%. That will be lower for Pakistan. But for India, that will be higher. And loss to the GDP. Loss to the GDP of India. That will be also significantly higher for India than all others. That will be in $1 trillion. In $1 trillion. And fall in consumption will be about 0.4, that is 0.5%. And in the country like 140 crore people, a fall in consumption by 0.5% is significantly greater. Is significantly greater. And therefore, it is very adversely affecting what we call it as a economy of India. Through agriculture, allied activities, industry, service sector, and productivity efficiency of the human resources in the country like us. And this requires to adapt for adaptation policies. And adaptation policies are very much required to be adapted so as to mitigate and control climate change and the evil consequences of climate change. Those are taking place. Now, the important thing which is necessary to be taken into account is ecological impact. How ecology is being affected so far as the climate change is concerned. Society is affecting, economy is affecting, growth is affecting, employment, inequality, poverty, that is affecting. Now this ecology, ecological balance is also of crucial importance. It is of greater importance. So in that perspective, how the ecological system or ecology of India is being affected, it will affect. That is also of crucial importance to be taken into account. Now it is found that a rise in mean warming will be significantly greater. Rise in temperature, mean temperature will be significantly greater. And this warming will be in the post-monsoon and winter season. It is not only in summer, but in winter and monsoon, post-monsoon. This warming will be more. And it will be significant in northwest India. It will change water supply. Water supply will change. And about 67% glaciers, Himalayan glaciers have been melted. And this will lead to number of hot days in a year. That will increase very significantly, according to IPC study. And that will lead to deaths because of heat waves, deaths of human beings, deaths of people. That will take place. There will be continuous events of droughts. Droughts will be experienced. And as a result, water levels will be fallen very significantly. There is a possibility of starvation, mass starvation. In Orissa, it is predicted that 11 million people will suffer from mass starvation. That's a forecasting. In Andhra Pradesh, because of drought conditions, irrigation facility is there, but irrigated water cannot be supplied to agriculture because that water will be used for at least drinking purpose. So supply of water to agriculture will be adversely affected. It will not be possible. Poor farmers, their survival will be a challenge. If they are not in a position to get minimum income, minimum output for the survival because of the adverse impact of climate change, the incidence of suicides may increase. And even the facility of irrigation is there. Irrigated water cannot be supplied. Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka are being adversely affected. Further, that will be intensified. And at this moment also, Bangalore is a metropolitan city. In millions, people are staying. There is acute shortage of water today also. And this acuteness of scarcity of water will be further increased. It will be very difficult to supply water in the city like Bangalore. That is one of the examples. This will happen in many of the cities and metropolitan cities. And that water body as an ecosystem that will be adversely affected. Public health, because of flood, because of drought, because of heat waves, because of cyclones, will be very adversely affected. Between 1980 to 1998, 18 heat waves have been observed, and 1,300 deaths have been taken place. That will further intensify, and it will be experienced in Andhra Pradesh. In Andhra Pradesh, that will be experienced. Orissa, intensity will be more, and thousands deaths will take place. Diarrheal diseases, flood will be there, and the diarrheal diseases will be found. One of the reports, IPCC says, more extreme scenario representing growing human adverse effect on health and slower and inequitable development will take place because of the impact of climate change. Moderate population growth and social and economic equality. In that direction, efforts will only sustain that society. Forest area will be adversely affected. And when a rise in temperature takes place, area under forest has a tendency of decline. Especially the forest in Western Ghat, evergreen areas, mangrove forest, those have adverse impact of climate change. And all of us know forest is an ecosystem. It has a number of benefits and advantages in the control of air, in the increase in rainfall, in the control of floods, and increase in fertility of soil and agriculture productivity. Consequently, agricultural allied activities and industrial development also. That will be adversely affected. There is a possibility of shift in forest types. Forest type will be changed, and biodiversity will be very adversely affected. When deforestation takes place, when area under forest is decreased, the forest biodiversity is very adversely affected, and there will be socio-economic adverse impact of loss of biodiversity and decrease in area under forest. Vegetation will decrease, biodiversity will decrease, and consequently ecological balance that will be adversely affected. Yes, there is a rising trend in global warming and climate change, and India cannot be an exception. And already I have mentioned that it is energy sector which is a contributor, especially thermal energy. And that is contributing to global warming and climate change, and climate change is affecting society, social effects, economy, economic impact, and ecological ecosystem impact, river, water, forest, cropland, ponds, lakes, etc., ocean. Now, is the policymakers are unknown to the mitigation of climate change, global warming? No. Nowadays, we are also focusing on the problems like global warming, climate change, sustainable development. Previously, sustainable development was not being talked about widely, but now even you can see economic surveys of Government of India last 5 years or more than that, a decade might be. There is a separate treatment to the sustainable development. So the point which I want to communicate to is that, yes, sustainable development, climate change, global warming has been taken into consideration. But the intensity of global warming, climate change, and evil consequences and impacts is rapid and significant. Consequently, the policies, programs, and schemes and missions, those are being formulated, being implemented, are not giving success or positive impact to the extent and magnitude in which it is desirable and required. It is desirable and required. But before, what changes are required? What policy revisions are required? Modifications are required? Inclusions are required? In what direction the policy makers are endeavoring? That also requires to be taken into consideration. Otherwise, it will be a bad message that still Indians are not familiar with the climate change and global warming, and no efforts are being made in the policies and the development that we realize and materialize. The efforts are being made by us so as to achieve and materialize development that is there. So far as the policies to mitigate climate change impact considers, it includes number of missions, schemes and programs. Just I will try to touch upon. National solar mission is there, all of us know. It is thermal energy, which is prominent in climate change. So we are going for a national solar mission. And in 12th flag, there was a outlay of 8,795 crore was allotted. The national mission on enhanced energy efficiency, that is increasing efficiency of energy, especially eco-friendly energy. That program was also being implemented. The national mission on sustainable habitat development, habitat centers of living things, which covers waste management, solid waste management, wastewater management, urban planning, energy efficiency, urban transport, how that can be pro mitigation of climate change. The national water mission, that was also program, was implemented, being implemented. National mission for sustaining Himalayan ecosystem, and 1,500 crore fund was allotted in 12th flag. National mission for green India, greening of Indian economy, and some budgetary provision was made. And the intention was to endeavor for achieving and realizing green economy, green India. Then mission for sustainable agriculture, because India is agriculture country. Dependence and dominance of agriculture, so far as a source of livelihood and employment supply also. The national mission on knowledge for climate change, now knowledge relating to climate change, and how that can create knowledge and education and awareness about the climate change among the people in this society as well. State action plans on climate change and current progress. State also is a stakeholder, so far as the policies relating to mitigation of climate change and control of evil effects and consequences of climate change. So some duties and responsibilities to the states also given in the form of action plans against climate change. And the prominent states covered: Arunachal Pradesh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Manipur, Mizoram, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh. Those are the very adversely affecting states by the climate change. Then central sector schemes relating to climate change action program and low carbon strategies and the financial implications. In international negotiations at international level also, recently only international conference was taken place. Such conferences are taking place, and in Kyoto it was taken place. UNOCEF is organizing. Poland, Warsaw, the conference was there. And through the international conferences also, the efforts are being made. And India cannot be separate from such international agreements and conferences and negotiations. And India is also a prominent stakeholder. Then global climate finance provision has been made. And through that, finance is being extended, it is being provided, and the efforts are being made so as to realize and achieve climate change mitigation. Then International Energy Agency is also trying for how the eco-friendly energy can be generated and supplied as the result of that. That will enable not only India but to the globe as a whole to realize and achieve this climate change mitigation. Then Global Environment Facility, for that funding is provided. National Clean Energy Fund is there. Carbon markets, trades and instruments, carbon trading, tradable permits. That is also being practiced so as to deal with, so as to mitigate climate change and consequently evil effects and impact on society, economy, and ecosystem. But when the present scenario is taken into account, no doubt the efforts are being made. No doubt global warming, climate change is the part and parcel of development policy. Sustainable development is being talked about. Schemes, measures, and programs are being incorporated, and the efforts are being made so as to implement. But that is not sufficient and adequate, because day by day, intensity of global warming, climate change is increasing. And in this year, you might have experienced how the rainfall was there, how the flood was there. Now, at this moment also, you can experience hotness, warmness in temperature. You can now experience. Actually, it is a winter season. But in winter also, the level of rise in temperature is significant today also. When that is taken into account, what the efforts are being made by the government of India and the state governments as well, so as to mitigate and realize and achieve control over the climate change and consequently bad impact of global warming and climate change. There is a need for some specific efforts and measures. Number one is plan for climate change mitigation and impact is need of the hour. Yes, our NITI Aayog prepares a plan. But the weightage and importance which is given to sustainable development and climate change mitigation, control of the global warming climate change, is not to the extent required and desired. So planned efforts or planned approach for the development of sustainable development is very much needed. Today also we are not talking about sustainable development. We talk about economic growth. We talk about trillion economy. We talk about fastest growing economy. But we do not talk about fastest sustainable development economy, fastest climate change mitigating economy. We are not talking about. So that is required. That is required. And unless and until in that direction the efforts are being made, the evil consequences that we are suffering from cannot be realized. Supplementary to that, rural economy. India is a rural dominated economy, agriculture dominated economy. And rural economy, agriculture economy should be the focus area so far as the plan, sustainable development plan is concerned. Environmental policies and planning is required. Planning for environment, policies for environmental preservation, conservation, control of the air pollution and global warming, climate change, that is very much required. No, we should talk about general economic welfare, welfare of all society, and not of the strata of the society, segment of the society. And that effort, that plan is very much required. And accountability, who is responsible? Who is going to take response? Who is going to take responsibility? That accountability is necessary. And accountability, yes, it is of the government, and society should contribute, society should respond. Climate change is a global problem. So coordination among the countries is also required. Our efforts are required, no doubt about that. But in addition to that, isolated efforts will not be sufficient and adequate. Coordination among the countries is also of crucial importance. Then what is required? Giving special importance to poor strata of the society and poor economies. The countries from Asian and African continent, those are poor. And those are dominated by the poor strata of the society. And the mitigation efforts can adversely affect these poor economies and poor strata of the society also. So their attention towards them is also necessary. And now we should not go for economic growth or fastest growing economy. We should change, or we should shift from growth or trillion economies to the sustainable development. Ecology is very much important. Ecological balance is very much necessary. And much efforts are not being made. And climate change is going to affect, already I have tried to place before you, the ecology hit hard. So ecological policy is required. In addition to that, this climate change is also affecting education, health, water supply. So social sector development in the perspective of climate change and ecological sustenance, that is of crucial importance. And more prominently in budgetary provisions. In budgetary provisions, the importance or due space should be given to the sustainable development in general and climate change mitigation in particular. And last but not the least, the mitigation of the climate change should take a people's movement, because power of the people, power of the society is significantly greater and higher and larger and more. So unless and until climate change mitigation, climate change control becomes a policy of the people, movement of the people, people's movement, rather it will be difficult. Only the efforts of the government are not sufficient and adequate. So people's wholehearted participation is of crucial importance. It should take a form of people's movement, because power of the people is significantly greater and larger. So it should take a people's movement so far as climate change mitigation and the control of climate change impacts is concerned. Unless and until in that direction, the efforts are being made by the policymakers and the government, rather it will be difficult. But it is urgent need of the hour. It is immediately required and needed to take very seriously climate change and evil consequences on the society, ecology, and economy as well. And to the immediate extent possible, we should formulate a policy, and sincerity, honesty, rigorousness is there in the implementation. If in that direction the efforts are being made, then and then only the survival of the earth, survival of the ecology, survival of the economy, and prominently survival of the society is possible. Otherwise, it will be difficult. We are listening to the drowning of the earth. Downing of the earth is possibilities because of the phenomenon or the incident like climate change. I hope in that direction the efforts will be made and future policies